Deep within the ancient emerald embrace of whispering woods, where sunlight dripped like honey through the canopy, there lay a spring of unmatched purity. Its waters, cold and clear as liquid diamond, had nourished generations of rabbits. They lived in harmony, their days spent nibbling clover and their nights serenaded by crickets. But this tranquility shattered when the earth began to tremble. A herd of elephants, driven by drought, marched into the woods. Their leader, a matriarch with tusks like curved swords and eyes sharp as flint, led them to the spring. They drank voraciously, their colossal feet churning the banks to sludge. The rabbits, once bold, now cowered in burrows, their thirst gnawing at them. Each attempt to approach the spring ended in terror, the elephants' thunderous roars, their trunks swinging like wrathful serpents. The water, once a mirror, became a murky pool of despair. One evening, beneath a sky embroidered with stars, the rabbits gathered in secret. Desperation hung thick as fog. A young rabbit, voice quivering, cried,
"We'll starve! What can we do against them?"
Silence followed until the rustle of dry leaves announced the arrival of the oldest among them. His fur was silvered with age, his paws scarred from decades of survival.
"There is a way,"
the old rabbit said, his voice a low rumble.
"but it requires courage and the moon's favor."
Skepticism rippled through the group.
"You'd face the elephants? They'll crush you."
A doe protested.
"Not with force,
He replied.
with wisdom. The moon sees all. Tonight she will speak through me."
Under a full moon's glow, the old rabbit climbed a lichen-crusted boulder overlooking the spring. Below, the elephants bathed, their shadows monstrous in the silver light. Drawing a breath, he shouted,
"Hear me, giants of the earth. I am the voice of the moon. This spring is sacred, claimed for the small ones who dance in her light. Leave now, or her wrath will blind you."
The matriarch snorted, her trunk curling.
A rodent speaks for the sky? Absurd.
"Test her anger.
The old rabbit challenged.
Gaze into the spring tonight. Disturb its waters, and her fury will strike you."
Intrigued, the matriarch lumbered to the spring. Peering down, she froze. The moon's perfect face stared back. Tentatively, she dipped her trunk. Ripples fractured the reflection, twisting it into a snarling, luminous specter.
It's true!
She trumpeted, panic rising.
The moon condemns us! Go, go!
The herd stampeded, their thunder fading into the night. Dawn revealed the spring still and pure once more. The rabbits drank deeply, their cheers echoing through the woods. The old rabbit watched silently, his eyes reflecting the moon's quiet pride. Let's dig into this story, shall we? Ever felt like a problem was too big to tackle? That's exactly how these rabbits felt. But here's the kicker. The old rabbit didn't fight the elephants. He outsmarted them. The core lesson? Cleverness trumps brute strength. First, notice how he used the elephant's own fears against them. They respected the moon's power, so he framed it as a divine force. Ever fallen for an optical illusion? The elephants did. They mistook the moon's reflection for its literal presence. It's a metaphor, really. Sometimes the giants in our lives are just shadows we've made monstrous in our minds. Then there's the theme of leadership. The old rabbit wasn't the strongest, but his wisdom earned trust. And the matriarch? Her quick retreat shows even leaders can be swayed by fear of the unknown. It's a reminder. Authority doesn't equal invincibility. So, next time you're stuck, ask yourself, what's my moon? Sometimes the solution isn't to fight harder, but to think brighter. If this tale sparked your imagination, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories where brains beat brawn. Got a time you outwitted a giant? Share it below. I'd love to hear your adventures. The heavy oak door creaked open, admitting a shaft of afternoon light into the sage's cluttered study. Dust motes danced in the beam as Marcus, a merchant known more for his garrulousness than his discernment, bustled in without waiting for an invitation. He settled himself onto a worn leather stool opposite the revered thinker, Aurelius, whose brow was furrowed over a scroll. Marcus launched into a torrent of talk: the price of grain, the city council's latest folly, the health of his mules. Aurelius listened patiently, his quiet presence a stark contrast to the merchant's bustling energy. Then, Marcus leaned forward conspiratorially, his voice dropping slightly.
Speaking of wisdom, Master Aurelius, you won't believe what I overheard in the marketplace today. Old Barnaby the tanner, you know, the fellow who can barely tell Aristotle from his own all. Well, he was singing your praises, loudly. Aurelius, he declared to anyone listening, is the greatest mind of our age, a paragon of virtue. Truly, no man like him has ever walked the earth. Can you imagine? Even he recognizes your brilliance.
Aurelius, who had been calmly tracing a line on the scroll, froze. His shoulders slumped visibly. He slowly lowered his head, resting his forehead in his hand, a deep sigh escaping him. The vibrant curiosity that usually lit his eyes dimmed, replaced by a profound weariness. Marcus blinked, taken aback.
Master Aurelius? Forgive me, have I caused offense? What troubles you so deeply? I brought news of high praise.
Aurelius lifted his head, his gaze meeting Marcus's with an unsettling intensity, devoid of anger, filled only with sorrow.
Marcus,
He began, his voice low and heavy.
you bring no offense. My distress stems not from your words, but from the nature of the praise itself. Tell me, what greater misfortune could befall a man who seeks truth and wisdom than to be lavishly admired by a fool?
He paused, letting the stark question hang in the air thick with the scent of parchment and beeswax.
Barnaby understands nothing of the principles I wrestle with, the complexities I strive to unravel. His life is governed by hides and copper coins, not logic or ethics. That such a man finds my work pleasing, it strikes fear into my heart.
Aurelius looked down at his hands, weathered from years of study.
It forces me to ask a terrible question. What unworthy thing have I done, or failed to do? What shallow notion have I expressed that resonates so perfectly with his profound ignorance? If my work finds easy favor with those who lack understanding, what does that say about the work itself? True understanding is hard won, Marcus. Approval should come from those who have struggled alongside you in the pursuit of light, not from those content to dwell comfortably in the shadows.
The merchant sat stunned. He had expected delight, perhaps even a humble deflection, but not this raw, unsettling grief born from admiration. The cheerful noise of the marketplace outside seemed to fade, replaced by the heavy silence of Aurelius's study and the uncomfortable weight of the sage's unexpected wisdom. Marcus left soon after, the buoyancy gone from his step, carrying with him not a tale of flattery, but a profound lesson about the bitter taste of praise unearned by genuine understanding. Okay, wow. That story packs quite a punch, doesn't it? Let's unpack this a little. On the surface, it seems almost ungrateful, right? Someone praises Aurelius, and instead of being happy, he's deeply troubled. But Aurelius isn't being arrogant here. He's pointing to something crucial about integrity and the pursuit of genuine wisdom. Think about it. Who do you really want approval from? Aurelius is terrified because Barnaby, the tanner, admires him. Barnaby represents someone who fundamentally doesn't grasp the depth or complexity of the sage's work. For Aurelius, true value comes from the respect of peers who understand the struggle, the nuance, the difficulty of the path he's on. If his work is easily understood and wholeheartedly embraced by someone operating on a completely different, simplistic level, well, it makes him question everything. Have I watered down my ideas? Have I accidentally pandered to ignorance? Is my work actually achieving the depth I strive for? It's a powerful fear for anyone dedicated to mastery in their field, be it philosophy, art, science, or even leadership. This isn't just about ancient sages. How many times have we seen shallow praise thrown around online? Or maybe in your own life, someone gushes over something you did, but their reason for liking it feels completely off base, maybe even trivializing the effort you put in. Aurelius's reaction highlights the danger of valuing all praise equally. Uncritical admiration from those who lack discernment can be misleading, even harmful. It can steer you away from rigor and towards seeking popularity over substance. True growth often comes from constructive critique from qualified people, not just blanket applause. It really makes you think about the sources of our validation. That's the kind of timeless wisdom we love digging into here on DecodeTales. We look for the deeper currents beneath classic stories. So, what do you think, viewers? Have you ever experienced praise that felt wrong? Like the person praising you just didn't get what you were trying to do? Or maybe you've been on the other side? How do you discern valuable feedback from mere noise? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I genuinely love hearing your perspectives on these tales. If this kind of story analysis resonates with you, if you enjoy uncovering the hidden layers and wisdom tales from around the world, then you're in the right place. Be sure to check out our other story explorations here on the channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it insightful, and hit that subscribe button to join us as we keep DecodeTales alive with more journeys into meaning. Thanks for watching, and keep seeking the deeper story. For many years, Cedric, the wise chief advisor to King Arthur, arrived at the royal chambers just as the first light of dawn touched the castle spires. Each morning, after bowing respectfully, he would stand before the king and declare,
"Rise with the dawn, and prosperity shall find you."
King Arthur valued Cedric's counsel, but one night a mischievous thought struck him. He summoned his most trusted guards.
"Awake before the midnight hour,
He commanded them.
and wait in the shadowed woods along Cedric's path to the castle. Before the first hint of dawn, when he approaches, surround him. Strip him of his cloak and tunic. Let no escape route remain. I wish to see how steadfast he remains to his own creed."
The guards obeyed. Deep in the cold, dark woods before dawn, they sprang upon the unsuspecting Cedric as he walked his familiar path. Strong hands seized him. Before he could protest or flee, his fine advisor's robes were torn from his shoulders. The guards vanished into the gloom as swiftly as they had appeared, leaving Cedric shivering in the undergrowth. Finding no path forward unobserved and no chance to reclaim his garments, Cedric realized his predicament. Appearing naked before the king was unthinkable, a breach of all decorum and respect. With quiet dignity, he turned and made his way back through the silent, sleeping town to his own home. There he dressed himself anew in fresh robes. Only then, as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long, late-morning shadows, did Cedric finally present himself at the king's audience chamber, his usual dawn arrival long past. King Arthur, seated upon his throne, couldn't contain a broad, triumphant smile.
"Ah, Cedric,
He boomed, his voice echoing slightly.
what delayed you this fine morning? Does not your own counsel ring daily in these halls? Rise with the dawn, and prosperity shall find you. Surely you, of all people, heed your own wisdom."
Cedric met the king's gaze calmly, his composure unbroken.
"Your Majesty,
He replied, his voice steady.
prosperity did indeed find some early risers today. The robbers who waylaid me prospered greatly, for they rose even earlier than I. They claimed my garments as their prize. Had I risen earlier still and reached the safety of your Majesty's court before they stirred, then I would have been the prosperous one, safely beyond their reach. The dawn's gift depends greatly on who else walks the path before the light."
A profound silence fell over the chamber. King Arthur's smile faded, replaced by a look of deep contemplation. Cedric's simple words had unveiled a deeper truth. Wisdom is not merely in the saying, but in understanding the world in which it is applied. All right, folks, let's decode this tale. Welcome back to Decode Tales, where we peel back the layers of stories to find the wisdom hidden within. Today's story, The King's Cruel Test, isn't just a clever little fable. It packs a punch about how we understand and apply advice in the real world. First, we see Cedric's famous maxim, "Rise with the dawn, and prosperity shall find you." On the surface, it's classic self-help advice, right? Be proactive, get a head start, seize the day. King Arthur, probably hearing it every single morning, decides to test its absolute truth. His little prank, having Cedric ambushed by guards disguised effectively as robbers, is the setup. He wants to prove that simply rising early isn't always a magic ticket to success. And Cedric's response is where the real gold is. He doesn't deny the value of rising early. Instead, he brilliantly reframes it. "The robbers who waylaid me prospered greatly, for they rose even earlier than I." Boom. Here's the first big lesson. Context is king, pun intended. Any piece of wisdom, no matter how sound, exists within a complex world. Success isn't just about your actions. It's also about the actions of others, the environment, and a bit of plain luck. Rising early might give you an advantage, but if someone with ill intent is up even earlier plotting against you, your advantage vanishes. It forces us to think beyond simple formulas. Secondly, Cedric highlights the difference between literal and applied wisdom. His saying is a general principle promoting diligence and initiative. King Arthur took it literally. Just wake up early, and good things happen. Cedric, faced with the reality of the ambush, shows its intended application. Rising early is meant to give you the opportunity for prosperity, to put you in a position to avoid pitfalls, like robbers, and reach safety or opportunity, like the king's court, before trouble arises. The wisdom is in the strategic positioning it affords, not just the act itself. Thirdly, there's a subtle point about humility in leadership. King Arthur set up the test to challenge, maybe even embarrass, his advisor. But Cedric's calm, logical response doesn't attack the king. It simply illuminates the flaw in a literal interpretation. Arthur's thoughtful silence afterwards shows a good leader can recognize a deeper truth, even when it comes from being bested in a test he devised. It's a lesson for anyone in authority. Be open to having your assumptions challenged thoughtfully. So, what does this mean for us on DecodeTales? It's incredibly relevant today. We're bombarded with quick fix advice and rigid life hacks. Do X and you will get Y. This story reminds us to be critical thinkers. Before blindly following any maxim, big or small, we need to ask, what's the context? Who else is playing this game? What is the actual principle behind the advice? It encourages adaptability and situational awareness over rigid dogma. True wisdom lies in understanding the why and the when, not just the what. Here at DecodeTales, we love uncovering these timeless insights. If this story made you think, gave you a new perspective, or even just entertained you, let us know in the comments below. What's a piece of common advice you've seen challenged by real life? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the story and the decode, and subscribe to DecodeTales for more journeys into the heart of wisdom tales. Hit that bell so you never miss uncovering the next hidden lesson with us. Thanks for joining us, and keep decoding. In the misty valleys of 1920s, Appalachia, nestled between ancient mountains and whispering pines, lived a weathered but sharp-minded lumberman named Walter. Known for his unshakable morals and dry wit, Walter believed that life's truest compass was a clear conscience, not the chatter of others. He often told his son, Samuel, a wiry 14-year-old with a curious streak,
Son, the world's got more opinions than a hound's got fleas. Listen to your gut, not the gossip.
One dewy morning, Walter decided it was time Samuel learned this lesson firsthand.
Saddle the mule, boy,
He said, tugging his worn boots on.
to the mill.
Samuel hurried to prepare the mule, brushing its speckled coat and securing its bridle. But as they set off, Walter hoisted himself onto the mule's back, leaving Samuel to walk. They hadn't gone far when they passed a group of coal miners resting by the roadside.
Ain't that a pitiful sight?
One man drawled, spitting tobacco.
Old man riding high while his boy's kicking up dust. Some father.
Walter said nothing but slid off the mule, motioning for Samuel to take his place. Down the trail, they crossed paths with homesteaders repairing a fence.
Well, I'll be.
A woman huffed, wiping her brow.
Young'un's sittin' pretty while his pa hoofs it. That's no way to raise respect.
Walter's eyes narrowed. He climbed onto the mule behind Samuel and the two rode double. At the next bend, a preacher and his congregation eyed them from a churchyard.
2 souls burdening one poor beast.
The preacher boomed.
Where's your Christian mercy?
Without a word, Walter dismounted, Samuel following. They walked side by side, leading the mule by its reins. Yet even this drew scorn.
Fools!
A trapper chuckled.
Got a mule and still walking? Must have left their sense in the holler.
When they finally reached the mill, Walter turned to Samuel, a sly grin creasing his face.
You catch all that, son? No matter how we moved, somebody squawked. Truth is, you can't stuff a muzzle on the world's mouth. So tend your own garden. Let God and your conscience be the judges.
Samuel nodded, the lesson settling deep. Walter's wisdom didn't stop there. He taught Samuel that life thrived in the middle ground.
Too much rain drowns the crop. Too little dries it to dust. Walk the ridge between.
All right, let's break this down. Walter's tale isn't just about a mule ride, it's about the noise. You know, that endless buzz of you should and why didn't you we all face. Those coal miners, homesteaders, and the preacher, they're the original internet trolls, always there to nitpick no matter what you do. Notice how Walter never argues? He just acts. That's the kicker. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, especially yourself. Samuel's journey mirrors our modern struggle. Social media likes, workplace politics, family expectations. The mule's a metaphor, sure, but it's also real. Life's burdens are heavy enough without lugging around everyone else's opinions too. And that line about tend your own garden? Pure gold. It's about focus. You can't control the trapper's laugh or the preacher's scold, but you can control your choices. Walter's teaching Samuel what therapists today call boundaries. Set 'em, keep 'em, and let the rest go. Oh, and balance. Walter's ridge between philosophy is clutch. Ever met someone who's all work, no play? Or so laid back they're horizontal? Extremes might get attention, but they're shaky ground. The sweet spot's in the middle, where your conscience breathes easy. Speaking of breathing easy, if this hit home, swing by DecodeTales for more stories that dig into life's messy truths. Got a take on people-pleasing? Drop it below. We're all ears. And don't miss our last video. In a quiet suburban enclave, two neighbors, Henry and Adrian, had been locked in a bitter rivalry for years. Their disputes were legendary. Early morning shouting across hedges, passive-aggressive notes slipped under doors, even midnight dares that ended in broken lawn ornaments. One evening, at last exhausted, they struck a grim bargain. Each would prepare a lethal potion, then flip a coin to decide who'd drink first. The one who lived would finally have peace. They flipped a silver coin on Henry's stone patio under the glow of a lantern. It spun in the air before landing on heads. Adrian's fate.
So be it,
Henry said, voice flat.
Tomorrow you'll taste this poison. Then peace is mine.
At dawn, Henry crept into town to the old apothecary. He handed over every dollar he had for the strongest rodenticide on the shelf. The apothecary's gnarled hands slid a small vial across the counter. Henry tucked it into his coat and returned home. He found Adrian waiting on the porch.
Here,
Henry said, offering the vial with a thin smile.
one swallow and you'll sleep forever.
Adrian raised an eyebrow, uncorked the vial, and drank its contents like bitter medicine. Then, without a word, he stepped back, nodded curtly, and walked home. Inside, he summoned his 2 attendants and gave precise orders. Fill the clawfoot tub with steaming water infused with Epsom salts. Whip up a jug of ultra-salty lemonade with a twist of lemon peel. Adrian entered the bathroom, downed the salty lemonade in one go, and eased into the hot bath. He soaked until sweat beaded on his brow, using the heat to speed the toxin from his bloodstream. He leaned back, fought the nausea, and vomited into the tub. Then he swam a few slow laps to clear his mind. When he finally stepped out, he dressed in clean linen and went to bed. By morning, Adrian awoke fully restored, as hale and hearty as ever. He strode to Henry's gate.
"Your poison failed,"
he said calmly.
"Now it's my turn."
Henry nodded, heading straight to the local supply store. He purchased a heavy, hand-woven wool rug, large enough to cover a pickup truck bed, and 2 sturdy mallets. Back home, he rallied his staff.
"From sunrise till sunset,"
he instructed.
"beat this rug with all your might. Every thwack you hear is the crushing of antidote ingredients. Do not pause until I say so."
From dawn till dusk, the rhythm of mallets on wool echoed through the house. Henry paced the halls, each strike fueling his conviction that a more potent poison was being prepared. At night he lay in the dark, too anxious to sleep. Every echo through the walls became a chime of impending doom. On the 3rd morning, a neighbor's hurried footsteps approached Henry's doorstep. The courier delivered grim news. Henry had collapsed in his study and never recovered. Overcome by relentless dread, he had perished long before any poison touched his lips. Thus it was proven. The fear we carry within us can kill more surely than any toxic brew. All right, let's decode this tale. On the surface, it's a cunning fable of 2 enemies trying to outwit each other with poison. But peel back the layers and you'll find a striking lesson about the corrosive power of unchecked fear. First, meet Adrian's methodical approach. He doesn't simply gulp poison and hope for the best. Instead, he plans a detox. Epsom salt baths to draw out toxins. A hyper-salty lemonade to purge his system. Measured rest to restore his strength. This is more than self-care. It's a metaphor for resilience. When faced with adversity, preparation and self-nurturing turn the tide. Adrian treats his body and mind as allies, not victims. Contrast that with Henry's downfall. He becomes fixated on perfecting a deadlier poison. His servant's relentless mallet strikes aren't just background noise, they become the drumbeats of his own panic. He never pauses to question whether he's building poison or just fueling his terror. Each strike echoes louder in his heart until dread itself fells him. The moral here applies directly to our lives. We all have our mallets. Work deadlines hammering at our nerves. Health worries pounding through our thoughts. Relationship tensions striking without warning. Embracing a strategy like Adrian's, rest, detoxify your mind, seek rational solutions, breaks the cycle. Instead of letting fear breed more fear, you bottle your worry, examine it, then release it. Don't let the rug beater of anxiety be the silent killer of your joy. So, what pounding rug are you facing right now? Is it an upcoming exam, a career crossroads, or maybe an uncertain future? Identify it. Then plan your own detox. Mental breaks, supportive conversation, actionable steps. You'll find that fear loses its sting when you confront it head-on. If this decoding resonated, keep exploring with us here on DecodeTales. Watch our other story videos, hit that like button, and subscribe for more tales that illuminate the hidden poisons in our lives. Drop a comment below. What's your mallet? How will you stop its rhythm? Let's break the cycle together. The grand hall of Prophet David stood silent as stone, sunlight streaming through arched windows onto marble floors. A woman entered, her shoulders bent like a willow in winter, her fingers stained with the indigo dye of her labor. She knelt before the throne, her voice a frayed whisper.
"O prophet of God, I must ask, is the Lord truly just? Or does he watch our suffering unmoved?"
David, whose wisdom was sung in every corner of the land, leaned forward. His eyes held the weight of 1,000 judgments.
God is justice itself. He cannot wrong even an ant. But your heart speaks of wounds. Tell me.
I am a widow. My husband's ashes rest in a field beyond the river. For 3 daughters, I spin wool into gold, or try to. Yesterday, I wove a shawl finer than spider silk, crimson as sacrifice, warm as hope. I wrapped it in linen and walked to the market. A falcon dove like lightning, snatched the bundle from my hands. Gone. Now my children's hunger is a wolf at our door. Where is God's justice?
As her last word faded, thunderous knocks shook the chamber doors. 10 merchants, salt-crusted and wild-eyed, stumbled in. Their leader clutched a sodden purse.
Prophet David! We beg you, distribute this gold to those God favors. Our ship split its hull on black waves. Death breathed on our necks. Then, a miracle. A falcon dropped a crimson shawl wrapped in linen onto our deck. We patched the rupture with its threads. The sea calmed. Solemnly we vowed, if spared, we give 1,000 gold coins to the needy. Here it is, a lifeline passed on.
David rose, his staff tapping like a heartbeat. He turned to the widow.
You asked if God is just? That falcon stole nothing. It carried your shawl across raging waters to save 10 souls. Your loss fed the storm so these men might live.
He placed the heavy purse in her calloused hands.
Take this not as charity, but as a tapestry's second thread. Your shawl mended a ship, now let gold mend your home. Remember, God sees the entire weave, not just your frayed edge.
The widow stared on the coins, then at the sea-weary merchants. She touched her empty loom at last, understanding blooming. Her suffering had been a single knot in a vast divine net. Hey there, wisdom seekers, let's decode this tale. Welcome to DecodeTales. I'm diving deep today into a story that doesn't just ask big questions, it answers them with thunder. The weaver's divine thread isn't folklore, it's a mirror. Let's shatter assumptions together. First, the widow's cry. She's us, all of us. When she snarls, "Where is God's justice?" she's howling at life's chaos, layoffs, diagnoses, dreams ash-burned. Her shawl, it's everything we've ever worked for, vanish in an instant. Ever felt that free fall? That's why this tale sticks. It validates our rage against the universe's silence. But here's the pivot. That falcon, the widow saw a thief. God saw a courier. This is the core truth. What we curse as ruin is often raw material for rescue. Those merchants, they weren't random. They were the recipients of her invisible generosity. Her stolen shawl literally stopped their ship from sinking. So when David hands her the gold, it's not a reward, it's a reckoning. "You called this injustice?" he whispers. "Look closer." 3 threads to unravel. The illusion of abandonment. The widow believed God ignored her. Truth? He rerouted her labor to save 10 lives first. Divine timing ignores human clocks. Ever had a failure later reveal its purpose? That's the loom at work. Interconnectedness. No one suffers or rejoices alone. Her hunger, their survival, her provision. Modern parallel? Your rejected job app frees you for a better fit. Your heartbreak leads you to comfort another. Accusation versus trust. David doesn't scold her doubt. He redirects it. Faith isn't blindness, it's rewiring perception. God sees the entire weave, he says. Our view, a tangled thread. His, a masterpiece. So, DecodeTales crew, when's your Falcon moment? When did loss become liberation? Scream it in the comments, I'm listening. If this resonated, like if you've ever misjudged your own story, subscribe for weekly wisdom unravelings and ring that bell. Remember, your frayed edges might be holding another's world together. Trust the weaver. In the rolling hills of 19th century Yorkshire, there lived a reclusive woodcutter named Thomas Whitaker. A man of few words and fewer comforts, Thomas spent his days chopping firewood in the dense oak forests bordering the village of Harrowick. His cottage, nestled at the edge of the woods, was a patchwork of mossy stones and creaking timbers, a testament to his solitary life. Though villagers whispered about his past, a widower, they said, who'd lost his wife to fever, Thomas cared little for gossip. His world was simple: axe, timber, and the rhythmic crunch of boots on autumn leaves. One frost-laced morning, Thomas set out earlier than usual. A letter had arrived the night before, a plea from his estranged sister in London, begging him to visit.
Come before winter.
She'd written.
I fear this may be our last chance.
The words gnawed at him. For years, he'd hoarded coins in a rusted tin beneath his floorboards, saving for a journey he'd never dared make. Today, he vowed, he'd gather enough wood to sell for a train ticket. By midday, Thomas had stacked a towering bundle of oak and birch, secured with frayed hemp rope. As he hoisted the load onto his back, a guttural bellow shattered the forest's silence. A wild cow, its matted fur streaked with mud, charged through the undergrowth. The beast's eyes blazed crimson, a symptom of the wasting sickness that had driven it mad.
Lost it!
Thomas roared, scrambling backward. The firewood tumbled to the ground as he sprinted toward a crumbling stone well, a relic he'd passed 100 times but never pondered. Gripping the moss-slick edge, he swung himself into the shaft, fingers clawing at a gnarled root protruding from the wall. The cow skidded to a halt above, snorting steam into the cold air. Dangling in the gloom, Thomas's boots scraped against wet stone. His pulse hammered as his eyes adjusted. 4 adders, their diamond-patterned coils glistening, writhed on a narrow ledge below. One strike, and their venom would stop his heart. Above, 2 black rats, gnarled creatures with yellowed teeth, gnawed at the root, their claws clicking like pocket watches counting down his doom.
Study, study,
Thomas whispered, though his hands trembled. Then a sticky sweetness filled the air. To his left, a wild honeycomb oozed golden rivulets down the wall. Hunger gripped him. He'd skipped breakfast, and before he could resist, he plunged a finger into the comb. The honey bloomed on his tongue, rich and floral, a fleeting comfort.
Just one more taste,
he muttered, scooping another glob. The rat's chewing faded. The adder's hiss softened. For a moment, he was a boy again, stealing honey from his father's apiary, his mother scolding him with a laugh. But nostalgia shattered as the root snapped. Thomas plummeted, screaming. The well's icy water swallowed him whole. When he surfaced, gasping, a 12-foot alligator, likely an escaped circus beast, lurked inches from his face, its jagged maw dripping with algae. The rats fled. The cow vanished. Above, the sky deepened to twilight, and the wind scattered his firewood across the moors like bones. All right, let's break this down. Thomas's story is a roller coaster of cause and effect. The wild cow? That's life's chaos, unpredictable, brutal, and fast. The well? A trap of his own making. When we're desperate, we cling to the first solution we see, even if it's flawed. Now, those adders and the alligator? They're the consequences we know are there but ignore. Ever put off a doctor's visit? Or ignored a leaky roof? We see the danger, but we think, I'll handle it later. But here's the kicker, the honey. It's not just food, it's any distraction that numbs us to crisis. Scrolling through TikTok while your savings account bleeds dry. Binging Netflix instead of fixing your marriage. Thomas's mistake wasn't the well, it was choosing temporary sweetness over survival. And those rats? Time. It's always chewing through your lifeline. Procrastination isn't harmless, it's rats at your rope. So, what's the takeaway? In chaos, focus. Prioritize the threat, not the comfort. Easier said than done, right? Let me know in the comments. What's your honey trap? What distraction do you need to quit? Before you go, smash that like button if this resonated, and subscribe to DecodeTales for more stories that make you think. Your support helps us keep the lights on. Until next time, stay sharp and avoid the well. In a thriving dukedom nestled between emerald hills, the aging Duke Alistair devised a curious test. At dawn, he ordered his guards to roll a moss-covered boulder, large as a carriage wheel, onto the cobblestone road leading to the bustling market square. Concealed behind a hawthorn hedge, he watched as the day unfolded. First came Lord Reginald, the Duke's own treasurer, in a velvet-lined carriage. His driver cursed at the obstruction.
Blasted thing! Who left this here?
Reginald peered out, scowling.
The roadkeepers grow lazier by the day. Someone ought to flog them for this.
With a wave, he commanded his driver to detour through the muddy ditch, splattering filth on nearby market stalls. Next strode Lady Beatrice, a merchant renowned for her exotic spices. She prodded the boulder with her silk slipper and sighed.
Useless. If the Duke can't keep roads clear, he's unfit to rule.
She gathered her skirts and marched around it, complaining loudly to her entourage about declining standards. As hours passed, dozens more passed by. A wealthy cattle baron who kicked the stone and bruised his toe, howling about taxes wasted. 3 giggling courtiers who balanced wine goblets on the boulder for a jest. Even the town magistrate who snapped,
"I'll file a report tomorrow,"
before hurrying to a banquet. None touched the stone. As twilight bled across the sky, Henry Miller, a wiry gardener whose hands bore the scars of decades tending orchards, trudged toward town. His donkey Daisy pulled a creaking cart overflowing with cabbages and turnips for the morning market. Henry's thoughts lingered on his daughter's fever and the healer's unpaid bill. Spotting the boulder, he halted.
Dangerous place for a rock,
he murmured.
Old Widow Martha walks this path at night. She'd break her hip.
Though exhausted, he unharnessed Daisy, patted her muzzle, and set to work. He dug his fingers into the earth beneath the stone, leveraging his spade against the cobblestones. Muscles trembling, sweat stinging his eyes, he heaved until the boulder rolled aside with a thunderous crack. There, in a rain-slicked hollow, lay a velvet pouch. Henry's calloused fingers fumbled with the drawstring. Inside glittered 50 gold crowns, enough to buy 10 farms, and a parchment sealed with the Duke's insignia.
To the hands that serve without demand, every obstacle is a door unopened. Your character has earned what your labors never could. Alistair, Duke of Oakhaven.
Henry sank to his knees, tears cutting trails through the dirt on his face. The coins meant medicine for his child, a new roof, and seeds for next season. When the Duke emerged from the shadows, clasping Henry's shoulder, the gardener stammered,
"But why me, Your Grace?"
Because...
The Duke smiled.
You saw the rock not as a nuisance, but as a threat to others.
News of Henry's reward spread like wildfire. The nobles who'd scoffed fell silent, their cheeks burning with shame. All right, story lovers, let's decode this tale together. I'm your host at DecodeTales, and today's story isn't just about a lucky gardener. It's a masterclass in human behavior. Grab a cup of tea, and let's peel back the layers. First, the invisible hierarchy of complaints. Notice how every noble felt entitled to criticize the Duke's leadership? Lord Reginald blamed roadkeepers. Lady Beatrice questioned the Duke's competence, yet neither considered they might be the solution. Sound familiar? We live in an age of hot takes and outrage tweets, where ranting is easier than rolling up sleeves. The story whispers, blaming others is the noise before surrender. Second, the currency of empathy. Henry didn't move that boulder for gold. He did it for Widow Martha, someone he'd never name-drop at a banquet. His action flowed from visualizing harm to others. Modern psychology calls this perspective-taking. The Duke called it character. In a world of selfies and self-interest, Henry's empathy was his superpower. Third, obstacles as camouflaged opportunities. That velvet pouch? It's metaphorical gold. Maybe for you it's the boring project at work that could showcase your skills. The strained relationship waiting for one vulnerable conversation. The boulder of daily routine hiding a chance to pivot. The Duke's genius was placing the reward under the obstacle, not beside it, not down the road, under. Because true opportunities only reveal themselves when we engage the struggle. Now, let's get real. Why did the nobles fail? Pride? Laziness? Actually, something subtler. Privilege blindness. When you're used to servants clearing your path, you forget you have hands. Henry, with no safety net, understood agency. His poverty bred resourcefulness. Their wealth bred passivity. So here's your DecodeTales challenge. What's your boulder right now? A procrastinated dream? A conflict you're avoiding? A societal ill you scroll past daily? Tag it in the comments. We're all fellow travelers here. If this resonated, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button. It tells YouTube, hey, more tales like this. Subscribe for weekly story decoding, hit that bell, and share your thoughts below. What would you have done at that boulder? Until next time, remember, the heaviest rocks guard the brightest gold. Keep decoding life, friends. The heavy oak door groaned as King Roland pushed it open, unannounced and uninvited, into the dim, book-filled chamber of Elias the Scholar. Dust motes danced in the thin shafts of light piercing the high, narrow windows. Elias sat hunched over a massive leather-bound tome, his quill scratching steadily across parchment. The clank of the king's armor, the heavy tread of his boots, none of it caused the scholar to look up, much less rise or bow. A flush crept up the king's neck. He was Roland the Mighty, Roland the Unbending. He had shattered the Iron Legion at Blackwood Pass, brought the rebellious Duke of Westmarch to heel in chains, and unified the fractured northern provinces under his banner. Men trembled at his approach. Yet here, in this dusty cell of learning, he was ignored like a stable boy. Fury, hot and sharp, surged within him.
Scholar,
Roland's voice boomed, echoing off the stone walls.
do you not know who stands before you? Do your eyes fail you, or your wits? I am Roland. I crushed Magnus the Brute, and left his banners trampled in the mud. I subdued the wolf of Westmarch, and dragged him before the High Council in irons. I command armies, and hold the fate of kingdoms in my hand.
Slowly, deliberately, Elias set down his quill. He turned, his eyes calm pools of deep gray meeting the king's blazing blue. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips.
I know precisely who you are, Your Majesty,
he said, his voice quiet but steady.
And I tell you this, I am stronger.
Roland's jaw dropped. Laughter, incredulous and sharp, burst from his lips.
Stronger? You, a man who hides among scrolls and dust? What army do you command? What fortress have you stormed?
I command no army, but my own will.
Elias replied, unflinching.
I have stormed no fortress but the one within. You boast of killing Magnus and subduing the wolf, commendable feats of outward strength. But I—
He leaned forward slightly, his gaze intensifying.
Have slain a foe far more dangerous, a tyrant you still serve.
What foe? Name him.
The self.
Elias declared.
The raging, demanding, insatiable self. I have mastered mine. You, mighty Roland, conqueror of men, are still utterly enslaved by yours. If you were truly its master, you would not stand here, trembling with wounded pride, demanding that I, a man like yourself, bow and scrape and worship you. You would not need my submission to feel powerful. True power lies not in commanding others, but in commanding oneself.
The word struck Roland like a physical blow. The righteous fury drained from him, leaving behind a sudden, hollow chill. He saw the truth reflected in the scholar's unwavering gaze. His conquests, his titles, his demands for reverence, they were not signs of strength, but desperate bids to appease the hungry, insecure creature within. Shame, profound and unfamiliar, washed over him. The clangor of armor seemed suddenly foolish, the weight of his crown oppressive. He took an unsteady step back, his gaze dropping from Elias's serene face.
I see,
Roland stammered, his voice thick. The bluster was gone.
Forgive me, Master Elias. My pride, my anger, they blinded me. Your words, they cut deeper than any sword.
He stood before the simple scholar not as a king, but as a man humbled, seeking absolution for a folly he only now understood. All right, folks, let's decode this tale. Welcome back to DecodeTales. Let's settle in and really unpack this one, shall we? That story, The Unbowed Sage, packs a quiet punch beneath its simple surface. On the face of it, we've got a powerful king, Roland, used to everyone jumping when he enters a room, meeting a scholar, Elias, who just doesn't. He keeps reading, ignores the royal presence completely. Naturally, Roland's ego goes into overdrive. He lists his impressive resume, conquered this rebel, crushed that enemy, rules vast lands. Classic external power display. But Elias? He doesn't flinch. Instead, he drops this bombshell. I am stronger. And his reasoning flips the whole script. Roland's strength is all about dominating others. Elias's strength is about mastering himself. He claims he's slain the most dangerous tyrant, his own selfish, demanding nature, his ego. Roland, for all his castles and armies, is still a slave to his. Why else would he need a humble scholar's bow to feel like a king? That's the core of it, right there. So, what's this tale really teaching us here on DecodeTales? A few key things. True power is internal. The loudest boasts, the biggest armies, the shiniest crown. They're impressive, sure, but they're ultimately external. They can be lost. Real, unshakable strength comes from self-discipline, self-awareness, and controlling your own impulses and ego. Elias, in his quiet study, embodies this. Roland, in all his clanking glory, realizes he lacks it. The tyranny of the ego, that self Elias talks about, that's our own inner tyrant, the part that craves constant validation, gets easily offended, demands special treatment, and lashes out when it doesn't get its way. Roland's initial rage is pure ego, wounded because someone dared not acknowledge its self-proclaimed importance. We all have this inner tyrant. The story asks, who's the master and who's the slave in your own mind? Humility is strength, not weakness. Elias's refusal to bow isn't arrogance, it's integrity. He won't break his own principles or compromise his focus, his study symbolizing his inner work, just to feed someone else's ego. His calm confidence comes from a deep inner security Roland initially lacks. Roland's eventual humility in admitting fault is his first step towards genuine strength. Wiship versus worldly power. The story cleverly contrasts two value systems. Roland represents worldly power, status, and dominance. Elias represents wisdom, inner peace, and self-mastery. The encounter shows that the latter can disarm and humble the former simply by revealing its inner fragility. Real respect is earned through character, not demanded through force or title. It's a timeless reminder, isn't it? Especially in our world where external validation and projecting power often seem like the ultimate goals. This story whispers, look inward, conquer the enemy within. That's the battle that truly defines your strength. So, DecodeTales crew, what did you make of King Roland's moment of truth? Did Elias's words resonate? Have you ever had a moment where you realized your own ego was running the show? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing your perspectives. If you enjoyed peeling back the layers of this wisdom story, be sure to check out our other videos where we decode more tales from around the world. Hit that like button if this gave you something to think about and subscribe to DecodeTales so you don't miss the next story and analysis. Thanks for listening and keep seeking the deeper meaning. The bustling marketplace hummed with its usual energy. Among the throngs of shoppers and merchants, one figure was a constant. Arthur, a beggar known far and wide, but not for reasons of pity. Arthur had become the town's peculiar entertainment. Every day, groups would gather around him. Someone would step forward, holding out 2 coins. One gleaming gold, worth a small fortune, the other merely silver. With exaggerated ceremony, they'd offer Arthur his choice. And every single time, without fail, Arthur's grimy finger would point to and then grasp the silver coin. Laughter would erupt.
Ha! Still the silver, Arthur?
A burly man named Bill would guffaw, slapping his knee.
Haven't you learned the difference yet, you old fool?
Women would titter, shaking their heads.
Honestly, Arthur,
A well-dressed lady named Eleanor might sigh.
if only you had the wit of a turnip.
They'd drop a few extra copper coins into his cup, payment for the day's amusement, convinced of his simple-mindedness. The story of the foolish beggar spread like wildfire, drawing ever larger crowds eager to witness his baffling choice. One afternoon, amidst the usual jeering crowd, a newcomer watched. Morgan, a traveler with kind eyes, felt a pang of discomfort seeing Arthur treated like a sideshow. As the crowd dispersed after another round of laughter at Arthur's mistake, Morgan approached. Gently pulling Arthur aside into a quieter alley corner, Morgan spoke with concern.
Arthur, forgive me, but why do you always take the silver? Don't you see? That gold coin is worth 10 times more, maybe 20. If you took the gold, you'd have real money. Enough perhaps for a meal and a warm place. And they wouldn't laugh at you like that.
Morgan placed a gentle hand on Arthur's shoulder.
Next time they offer, please take the gold. See how much better it is.
Arthur looked up at Morgan, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur.
Ah, my friend, you mean well, truly you do. On the surface, you're right. But you don't see the game.
He glanced back towards the market square.
If I took the gold just once, the game would be over. Why would they keep coming? Why would they keep giving me anything? They come to prove they're smarter than the fool. They pay.
He jingled his cup significantly.
To feel clever. That laughter? That's the sound of coins falling into my cup. You don't know how much I've earned playing the simpleton. Sometimes the greatest wisdom looks like foolishness, especially when it fills your belly.
Arthur winked, a spark of sharp intelligence flashing in his eyes that Morgan had completely missed before. He shuffled back towards his spot, ready for the next group eager to test the fool, leaving Morgan standing in the alley, stunned by the profound, hidden strategy behind the silver choice. All right, folks, let's unpack that story. The coin collector's wisdom. What Arthur showed us is a masterclass in pragmatic intelligence. On the surface, yeah, grabbing silver over gold seems downright dumb. But Arthur wasn't looking at the immediate value of a single coin. He was playing the long game, the psychological game. Think about it. His entire income relied on being the predictable fool. The crowd wasn't giving him charity out of kindness. They were paying for entertainment, for the feeling of superiority. The moment Arthur chose the gold, he shatters that illusion. He reveals himself as smart, maybe even smarter than them. And suddenly, the fun's gone. Why would they keep paying to feel outsmarted? The golden goose, or rather, the silver beggar, stops laying eggs. This highlights a fascinating point. Perception is a powerful tool. Arthur understood that letting people underestimate him was actually his greatest strength in that specific situation. He traded the appearance of foolishness for consistent, guaranteed gain. It's a reminder that true intelligence isn't always about showing off how smart you are. Sometimes the smartest move is letting others think they've got you figured out, while you quietly work the system to your advantage. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do we see someone making a choice we think is silly, without knowing the full picture? Maybe in your workplace, someone seems to take the easy way out, but actually avoids a massive headache later. Or perhaps someone seems overly humble, but it builds incredible trust and loyalty. Arthur's story teaches us to look beyond the surface action and consider the strategy behind it. What are the unseen rules they're playing by? What are they really gaining? It also speaks to understanding your audience. Arthur knew exactly what motivated the people in that marketplace, their desire for amusement and feeling superior. He gave them exactly what they wanted, a laugh at his expense, and got exactly what he needed, their coins, in return. It's a transactional relationship built on a carefully crafted illusion. So, the next time you're quick to judge someone's choice as foolish, pause. Ask yourself, is there a hidden strategy here? Could this apparent mistake be a calculated move in a larger game I don't fully see? That's the kind of deeper thinking we love to explore here on DecodeTales. What did you think? Was Arthur brilliantly cunning or just lucky? Have you ever encountered a situation where playing dumb was the smartest move? Share your thoughts down in the comments. I read them all. And if you enjoyed peeling back the layers of this story, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and check out my other story analyses on DecodeTales. There's always more meaning to uncover. Thanks for listening.